In the wind-swept coasts of western Orkney lies a place where the ancient traditions and customs of our Neolithic ancestors never truly died. The ancient and mystic village of Skara Brae, which consists of 10 clustered houses, each with its own story to tell, lies on the western side of the Bay of Scale in the western mainland of Orkney, where it has miraculously sat at the bay's shores for millennia, surviving both natural and man-made threats thanks to its unrivaled architectural and geological design. The village can be boasted as the oldest and most well-preserved Neolithic village in all of Europe, if not the world. It has even been nicknamed the Scottish Pompeii. It helps give one of the most detailed and in-depth peeks into how our ancestors lived and died, and faced defeat and triumph. Now join me as we finally uncover the secrets of Orkney's ancient gem. Skara Brae is thought to have been founded in 31,800 BC, making it older than both Stonehenge and the mighty pyramids of Giza. Skara Brae's history is turbulent and mysterious, and due to it being so old, it's hard to really make a precise timeline for its history. However, thanks to archaeological artifacts and the odd bit of digging, we can really piece together how the ancient Orcadians lived, and also how they met their demise. Peoples of Skara Brae were most likely roving bands of hunter-gatherers, farmers, and fishermen. It is also thought that the Orcadians numbered around 50 to 100 people in Skara Brae, making them a formidable contender in the region. However, despite their powerful stance, it is believed that the people of Skara Brae were largely peaceful compared to the roving nomads of the south and east. We can say this because there are no weapons or armaments found at Skara Brae. This was especially the case after the agricultural revolution, which enabled the Orcadians to settle down and live permanently in Skara Brae. Skara Brae was most likely built from the local stones of the area, as the stones used in Skara Brae are similar to those found in the local dunes and beaches. The original residence of the village is thought to have been adjacent to a freshwater loch and surrounded by grassy flatland. At the time, the village would have been considered inland. However, now, it is very much coastal after the land receded, following great storms and the rising sea level following an ice age. This submerged most of the land surrounding much of what we call Orkney, and put Skara Brae at the mercy of the sea. However, the Orcadians eventually left the settlement for unknown reasons around 600 years after its founding, and Skara Brae sank under the sand for thousands of years, waiting to be rediscovered. In the nearby areas, remnants of other tombs and villages would also be submerged beneath the sand, or destroyed in the unforgiving tides of the Pentland Firth. However, despite the lack of human presence, it is thought Skara Brae remained untouched after a thick sand dune covered it after a storm ravaged the area. The dune protected the village, and its various artifacts which mostly survived the millennia of isolation and which now can be seen today. Many centuries later, in 1850, a strong storm uncovered the first secrets of Skara Brae. The owner of the land in the nearby Scale House, William Watt, discovered exposed walls and uncovered 4 of the houses. Over the next 100 years, many excavations took place. At first, many believed this to be a picturesque construction, but later evidence proved that this was Neolithic in nature. However, unfortunately, treasure hunters descended on the site and carried off many precious artifacts in 1913 while it was unprotected. The artifacts were never recovered. What remains does thankfully give us insight into the ways the ancient Orcadians lived and truly help us understand the mystique of Skara Brae. These artifacts can be seen throughout the village, and they include trinkets and art alike. One fine example is the stone balls that we see with intricate carvings on them. It
It is thought these balls most likely represent runes, and most likely were for religious purposes or some kind of hobby or game for the people of Skara Brae. The balls have been found to have connections with other balls discovered, mainly in the Scottish Highlands, but they can also be found in Ireland and England. More artifacts have been discovered, however, such as ochre, so it seemed to imply that body painting may have been a custom for the Orcadians. Another is beads, most likely representing power and status. Pottery was also found in Skara Brae, perhaps giving us information. These artifacts undoubtedly played a significant role in the life of your average ancient Orcadian. It's not too far-fetched to say that the rest of the islands may have lived very similarly to the ones in Skara Brae. However, the architecture of the houses cannot be ignored, as they were very advanced for the time. The number of houses can be chalked up to around 12, and these are extremely close together. The clustered housing, which was built into the man-made hill, protected the villagers from the elements and likely made an attack by predators and outsiders more difficult. The Orcadians also used things like shells and other garbage to build what seems to be insulation. Despite evidence of regalia, it seems that the actual housing was standardized, with no obvious leader's house. This may have suggested a form of communal lifestyle, as the architectural differences found were more based on when the property was built, new ideas added in newer builds, rather than a hierarchical structure. There is also evidence of a primitive filtration and sewer system that would increase the standard of living in Skara Brae drastically. Furthermore, there is evidence of toilets and drains in each house, along with beds, herds, and cupboards. Finally, there is evidence of a great tomb in Skara Brae, suggesting that the Orcadians were very closely linked to the peoples around them. There are other examples of evidence of Neolithic Orcadians. One such example is the Nap of Howard, which resides on the nearby island of Papua Westray. Culturally and physically, it is very similar to Skara Brae, and some have even said that it strengthened the case that the peoples of Orkney were most likely very interwoven and very diplomatic in their every day-to-day lives. Nowadays, old enemies have come into play, as the hungry sea and ravenous wind that exposed the marvel of Skara Brae in the first place are hungry for the treasures of this archaeological mystery. Sea walls and shoring of defences from the local government have been installed in an attempt to delay Skara Brae's return to obscurity from the wrath of the ocean. Measures have also been made at the site to prevent visitors from accessing the vulnerable sections. The village has been deemed part of the heart of Neolithic Orkney, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and it has received a dusting in a fancy new visitor centre. The artifacts that remain are on display for the world to see, and Skara Brae is now known for its preservation and rich history. What we can tell from the ancient village of Skara Brae is a sad truth. As time passes, one day, Skara Brae will eventually be reclaimed by the sea, its history and secrets washed away for good. However, despite this, the fact that Skara Brae remained untouched for so many years truly puts into perspective humanity's progress into the future, and it may not seem as bad as you might think. And because Skara Brae has survived all these years, should really prove as a metaphor for humanity and civilization, that despite the dark times will eventually triumph. But at the end of the day, it's the Orcadians we have to thank. Create such a masterful window into the past for us all to look upon. So, I implore you, if you can ever get the chance to visit Orkney and Skara Brae yourself, you should. For it's an experience you will never forget.